Huh?
Back over. Okay.
Psychotic, they say. What exactly makes me psychotic? Officer DePella says just killing a woman makes me psychotic. But does it? I don't think so. Hey, Officer DePella! How are you this fine day? Did I ever tell you the story about the day my pappy filled 3 Coca-Cola bottles with sunflower seeds and then swallowed them all like he was popping Tylenol? So what would you like me to talk about today? When I pumped Cindy Graves full of 45 shells? Or maybe you'd be more interested in hearing about what I did to her afterwards. Oh, you saw the files? Did you like my artwork? There you go again. Call me a freaking psycho. Okay. Let me ask you this, officer. Do you think I'm screwed up because I killed this girl? Or because I don't like donuts? Yeah, I heard you craving those donuts every morning. I thought that maybe, hey, temper, Earl. Did I hit a sore spot? All right, I'll make you a deal. I'll tell you my story if you stop throwing down donuts for a week. Now, it all started when my Nintendo broke. Nintendo. Got that? Okay. It broke, and I was all pissed off, because I was on World 7 in Super Mario World. As everyone knows, World 7 is a royal pain in the ass. So it shut off right in the middle of my game. To let off some steam, I went to the corner store to get some milk. Some fruit striped gum, too. But that lady at the store, I told her she had a nice collection of Juji fruits, but she takes it the wrong way and gets all upset. Starts speaking in quickie Martinese. Something like, how could you say that? I'm calling the police. Then something about sexual harassment. She was just getting way out of hand. So I said to myself, Barry, you gotta take charge here. This lady's a nutcase. So, I'm getting to the point. Did you get the part with the gum? Good. Well, anyways, I told the lady I'd leave, but I was gonna have my shrink call, because she just had problems. You could tell. She had Playboy 3 magazines away from Penthouse. Is that dumb or what? So I grab my milk and gum and I leave. Now I'm walking home and I see my neighbor messing around in her garden. So I said to her, hey, Cindy, you ever meet the lady at the corner store with the really big nose? Write that down. Her nose was freaking huge. Like Barbara Streisand or something. But she says yeah, and I ask her if she was rude to her. She says no, and I tell her what went on, and she's laughing at me. She laughed at me. Then I told her that my Nintendo broke, and the broad starts laughing harder. Bitch. So I says to myself, yeah, I'll fix her. Her and the skank with the Juji fruits. So I go home and get my gun. I got it for safety purposes. Well, that's not entirely true. When my Nintendo Zapper broke, I had to get a new one. But I figured, hell, might as well get one that actually shoots. Write that down. I bought it for my own security. So I get my gun, and at this point, I'm all like, this bitch is gonna get a garden tool stuck up her butt. I go outside, and she grins at me, and I pull the trigger 9 times. She ain't laughing anymore. You guys came for it, get the nitty with the Juji fruits. So, officer, what's gonna happen now? Yeah, I am aware this is the state of Georgia. The electric chair, huh? One thing. Do you think it's at all possible I could have my Nintendo and a bag of Juji fruits?
Thank you. And Andy Nearing is the writer of that monologue. Andy, could you read for me? Oh, there's Andy.
If you're white, you're all right. If you're brown, you can stick around. If you're black, stay way the hell back. You, I see you looking up at me all smug. With that little blue dress and those beautiful silky curls. I don't know why I had to have you, but I did. Went right past the little Negro dolls and in their cardboard boxes trying to look dignified. I knew as soon as I saw you, you were the one that I wanted. I whined and told Mama that I didn't want no pickaninny doll. I wanted you, the one with the eyes so blue. She could see right into your soul. The one with the hair, like the angels in a Michelangelo painting. But you never read my soul. You never knew what I thought when all the girls at school whined about kisses received on peachy porcelain skin. Their boyfriend's fingers sliding smooth as a knife through butter around their Shirley Temple Goldilocks Rapunzel hair. No. You never knew how I felt about my Brillo bunches that grew where Shirley Temple curls should have been. You didn't care that I didn't even have no high yellow to resort to. And I thought you were so pretty because you looked like pictures of Michelangelo angels and Norse gods. You were pretty enough to be painted on the stained glass in churches and printed on greeting cards to make grandparents smile. And when the pastor at church told us to close our eyes and think of the Virgin Mary, so pure and glowing white, I thought of you or someone like you. Because no preacher ever showed me a picture of a brown painted Mary. Her virgin breasts were too pure to show bare, the way the natives exposed their own. So when we stomped and hollered, our necks rolling, praising the mother who bore us, my vision was of smooth milk skin and finely woven corn silk. And how could I forget about you? The ideal of my womanhood. Hot combs, weaves, straightening gels, tears, sweat, and dreams. All little girls are meant to look like you. Mama didn't know this as she pushed me into the Sunday morning chair, raking out the snarls of my youth. Jesus didn't care because if I clasped my hands in prayer long enough and dreamt of creamy, smooth-colored virgins hard enough, he would allow me to sit beside him as an angel in my own right.
Thank you. And the writer of that piece was Hillary James. Is Hillary James. Hillary, could you just raise your hand?
It wasn't my idea to come here. It was my mom's. She thinks I'm crazy or something. Says I've been acting strange all of a sudden. The truth is, she can't deal with the fact that I'm growing up, that I don't need her anymore. That's the problem with parents. They always assume that you're this non-sentient being, that without their advice and help you'd be sitting like an amoeba on your butt all day. I'm either overestimated or underestimated. Nobody ever gets it right. Yes, I feel misunderstood. Can't you tell me something I don't already know? And what is all that stuff that you're writing down? Yeah, save your writing for when I really get going. My mother, she tries to make me into this generic popular type of person. She's always going to PTA meetings to meet other parents. That way she can get me to socialize with their kids. I hate socializing. I hate other kids. I only have one friend, or at least she was a friend, until she lost her virginity and went and made this big deal out of it. I mean, it is a big deal, but she told me about it while I was eating a calzone. That really pissed me off. You should not tell people you've lost your virginity when they're eating. She broke up with him 2 weeks later. I felt like saying, I told you so, but I didn't say anything. We haven't seen each other since then. When I got home that day, I puked up my calzone. My mom. God supposed to refer to him in he-she terms. Because if God were a woman, the world wouldn't be in the crappy state it's in. My father. Well, he's basically non-existent. My parents divorced when I was 2, and I get along fine without him. It's kind of like I'm talking about a ghost. Mom never speaks about him, except when she gets mad at me. Then she says, "You're just like your father." What's that supposed to mean? Another thing. She's always telling me how I should be fashionable. You know, like wear clothes that those pretty girls in those fashion magazines wear. There is no way in hell I could even get my ass in those clothes, even if I wanted to wear them. I like wearing dresses, but that's not sinking into her head. I asked her to buy me a nice long skirt for my birthday, you know, like the kind the gypsies used to wear. Instead, she buys me these ugly, fake leather shoes. The kind of leather that smells like crap and makes your feet sweat. They're not even biodegradable. Those shoes will be around forever, possibly until the apocalypse, when the sun goes supernova in 6 billion years, or whenever it's supposed to happen. Think of it. Millions of people buy those same kind of shoes and then throw them out. Somewhere, every day, someone's throwing out those damned plastic leather shoes. Eventually, there will be so many shoes, there won't be any room for anybody to live. And add that to all the other shit that won't disintegrate. There won't be any oxygen left here. Of course I worry. I worry about everything. If people want to go around killing themselves and making life hell, that's their business. But I don't want to have to suffer because of the stupidity of everybody else. That's the trouble with being conscious of things and being logical, because you worry about everyone else's mistakes while they go on making them and enjoying their puny little lives. What I wish, more than anything in the world, is to have power, so I can make a difference. And start detechnologizing mankind. No more computers, etc. Except maybe calculators, because I'm really bad at math and it gives me a headache if I have to do a problem out. But then again, I could ban math, couldn't I? Everything would return to its true nature. The ultimate state of civilization would be to become one with the universe, and you don't get there by conversing with perverts on the internet. There will be a great change. And if people don't like it, they can find themselves a nice little island to live on, and I'll be laughing all the way as they eventually exterminate themselves under a huge mountain of fake leather shoes. Of course I've been planning this out. You think I'm making up this elaborate plan to save the world as I go along? I told her you wouldn't be able to help me. She's so neurotic. She got all upset after I planted this mini bomb in the school bathroom. It was an organic bomb, so the atmosphere wasn't harmed. No people were hurt. It wasn't a big blast. I set it off during 4th period when nobody's around. It's not my fault I had to take such drastic measures. If attention was paid to important things, then I wouldn't have had to do it. But apparently, to get someone's attention these days, you either have to act like a lunatic or blow your own head off. I preferred rearranging the school bathroom. I did it to make a point. Or at least force them to refurbish the school bathrooms. They were really quite unsanitary. I can't believe I have to go through 5 weeks of therapy. You can't change the way I think. People have no clue. They don't understand what they're missing. We're really all stitched together like a giant quilt. A quilt that's frayed and broken around the edges now. I feel sad.
Thank you. And the writer of that monologue is Deja Pitzinger.
That cab to come, and I was so afraid he would wake up and find me leaving. Then the cab finally came, and I was rushing out to get it, and I forgot your necklace. I'm sorry. You know I couldn't go back. I would have been tempted to stay. Just as I was running out, I heard him stir. And as we drove off, I looked back and saw him at the window. And the breath caught in my throat, and I started crying just from looking at the sadness in his face. Then he dropped the curtain, and he turned the corner, and I lost sight of him. That's when I knew he'd been awake the whole time. Jane asks me sometimes what her father was like, and I tell her that he was a sweet man, but he's gone now. She asks if he's dead, though her 3-year-old mind can't grasp the concept of death. I tell her no anyway, though I have thought of telling her that he is. Instead, I just tell her that he's not with us anymore. I'm sorry I didn't come back home after Jane was born, but you have to understand that I had been living with all the responsibility of an adult, and I felt like an adult, and I felt like coming home would be reverting back to childhood, and I was afraid of it. When I was younger and still in high school, living at home with you, I thought the world was mine. John came and set me straight. He told me that I couldn't live in this world without consequences, and that I owed the world for what it had given me. John was 2 years older than me, but we had been in love. Love, you might say, is a very big word and feeling. But when you lie in bed with someone, night after night, and curl up close to his body so that you can feel his heart beating, and that rhythm is something that you never get bored with, I think that's love. John was one of those really dippy types. He was always off in his own little world that no one could get into. He used to walk down the street with this blank stare, and people used to look at him all funny like there was something wrong with him. Then he'd just bust out and go apeshit on him. Sorry for swearing. But he was smart, though. But he loved me too much. I couldn't deal with it after a while. That's why I left. It's not that I got bored with his heart pumping beside my ear each night, but rather what his heart was pumping for. And I was scared I had grown up too fast, and I needed to get away from it. And right after I left, I was thinking about coming home to you. But then I found out I was pregnant and I couldn't ask for help. I moved in with him when I was 16. Moved out when I was 18. 2 years. 2 years that I had grown up. I did more growing in those years than many people do in a lifetime. I had to live that life. I had no choice. Either to live that life to its fullest, or to live another life at home with you. I felt like I had missed my teenage years, all gone in the blink of an eye. If I had known then about the baby inside me when I left, I would have stayed. He would have loved me too. You know, Mom, Jane asks me sometimes what her father looked like. I tell her he was beautiful.
Marie is the writer of that monologue.
So yesterday he bought me a red lipstick. To match your red dress, he said. I didn't know what to say to him, you know. When a guy buys you makeup, you have to wonder if there's some kind of hint. You know, like when someone buys you bath oils or whatever, and in the back of your mind you're like, do I smell or what? And now I'm thinking, are my lips too light maybe? I mean, should they be more red? Really, they look all right to me. Could use a tan, though. Those cancer studies are so made up. We both know that. But wasn't that a really weird thing for him to do? Don't know what he was thinking. Bright red just is not my color. I'm more of a pinkish tone, I think. You know, frosted wine or whatever they call that new purple shit. I know, the one he gave me had a really weird name too. It's called, wait, 100% Oh, you know, downtown. That's how this whole encounter started. I went to this dorky dance club with Sarah as a joke. Actually, we thought it was a gay bar, and we wanted to go meet gay men. What can I say? I fall in love with gay guys. But anyway, it turned out to be like an everybody club. Gay and straight and sort of tacky. All these rooms with different themes, right? Like futuristic room, all in silver with TVs on the walls. And the trippy 60s room. You can picture that. There was even a fake S&M chamber. It was like Epcot Center on acid or something. Or Graceland. So I met him there, in the lounge lizard room. Yes, it was all zebra print and velvet and stuff. We had a pretty good time, just talking and hanging out. Sarah? Oh, she was off chasing some 9-foot drag queen or something. Yeah, I guess she wanted fashion advice. Actually, until this guy asked for my number, I thought he was a gay man. Not because he was that effeminate, there was just a shyness about him. A kind of reserve that most guys don't really have. I thought he seemed sort of remote and calm, you know, like he would sort of watch and be above everything I did. A kind of dignity. What? Yeah, I wish. Turned out it was all a front. He wears this plaid coat all of the time and probably thinks he has good hair. Every 5 seconds he's checking it or something. You can tell he's insecure about his looks. He asked me the other day if I thought he was good looking, so I said, "What do you mean?" Did I look him in the eye? We were on the phone. So I said, "I can't remember what you look like. Send me a picture and I can give you an opinion." Yeah, probably a nude picture. Actually, I don't want a nude picture of him. No, I wouldn't call him ugly. He's not bad looking at all. It's just, if he were naked, he looked really undignified. Just wrong. You know what it is? He looks sort of like a saint. Yeah, even in his ugly plaid coat, no. I mean like those saints in Renaissance paintings. Not the ones in churches, thank God. Those wax guys used to scare the shit out of me at Mass when I was little. But he has this sort of patient look that those old Italian saints have. A gentleness or something, like, you know, one of those guys in robes with the light sort of falling over his face. What? Sure, hold on. Hello? No, it's okay. Who was it? Oh. So whatever. This guy is, like, really interesting, but he's too much emotion. I'm not into that. The other day, we were talking about meeting people, and he got kind of upset to hear I pick up guys at parties all the time. Well, not all the time, but, you know, normal social kind of thing. Meet someone here, someone there. Yeah, no big deal. Uh-huh. Yeah, but it really upset him. He started spewing all this bullshit about AIDS and babies and I don't know what. Yeah, he seems to think like we're engaged or something. Like now I have an obligation to spend all this time with him just because I don't blow him off when he calls. Twice. We've been out twice. No, I haven't been to bed with him, that's the kicker. He hasn't asked, and I haven't brought it up. So anyway, after lunch at Japanica yesterday, we're sitting in the car, and all of a sudden he reaches out and grabs my wrist and squeezes it with his fingers. It was really weird. And I asked what he was doing, and he's like, "I don't feel anything. You have no pulse at all. Are you sure you're really alive?" It sort of scared me then, actually. Because it's strange. When I had my test at the clinic last month, they had trouble finding my veins. The nurse was moving the needle around my arm, and it hurt like hell. And she looked up and said she couldn't find a vein to put in me. My veins went deeper than normal is all, and she goes, "You sure you got a vein down there?" Yeah, I mean, she did. Eventually did. But it was weird. I mean, when he grabbed my wrist and said no pulse, like for a second, I was afraid that I really wasn't alive. That I had no heart at all. I felt like an android, you know, Daryl Hannah in Blade Runner, all perfection and no soul. I know, too many movies. It's like a bad Twilight Zone or something. Yeah. Maybe that's why I feel funny right now. Why I don't want to sleep with him. He's so, I don't know, emotional toward me. Toward everything. Like everything, everyone with should be someone you love, even if it's just a little bit. And then he gave me that damn lipstick. 100% red. And he said it reminded him of me. But he was smiling when he said it, so I don't know. And hey, you know what else? I don't even have a red dress. Not a single one.
And the writer of that monologue is Anna Kramer.
He called me superficial. I don't know, it bothered me. He looked right at me, I can feel him looking. But I was fixing my hair. What, am I allowed to pull my hair back in math class? But I was putting on my lipstick when he said it. He told me, God, you're so superficial. Like I'm supposed to care what he thinks. I don't. I don't give a damn what he thinks about me, you know? I was like, what the hell? But I didn't say that. I hate that kid. What else am I supposed to do in that class? I don't understand what that damn teacher was talking about anyways. What the hell is a logarithm? I don't know why I come to school anyways. I can't believe that asshole called me superficial. I don't know what he's talking about because I'm not superficial. So what if I look at myself in my compact? I like looking at people, even myself. I stare at pretty girls sometimes. I love beautiful people. I draw people into orbits around them. I love to watch a man's eyes when he first decides a girl is beautiful. Way to two make eye contact. She's confident, so she's not afraid to look right back at him. Let a tiny grin pucker the dimples in her cheeks. So what if I was looking in my mirror? It's not like I think I'm beautiful or anything. I'm not superficial. I never used to think about those girly things. Makeup, clothes, you know? Imagine me. I used to sit around, pimply faced, round as a tomato. I used to eat and read all day. Nothing important. The Hobbit. Most of those Narnia books. You know, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Those. Can't believe I'm wasting my time with those things. Pretending I was someone else, somewhere else. Spend my summers outside reading. Got scabs all across my legs because when I saw someone walking up the street, I'd climb up into a tree so they wouldn't see me. I didn't want to stop reading and maybe lose my place in the book if I had to talk to them. You know, I used to get straight A's. My 6th grade teacher once told my dad I was the smartest girl in the class. He laughed. And I did too, I guess. But I don't think it was funny. Probably wasn't even true anyways. I was getting skinnier then. I got taller, but my chest got big, and I got a boyfriend. Frank. I don't know. Looks just don't matter so much when there's a guy there. All the other girls are reading Sweet Valley High and practicing kissing on their pillows, playing truth or dare with the ugly boys in our grade. My boyfriend was in the 8th grade. I don't know. Sometimes I wish I didn't go out with him. Not because of what I did with him, but, you know, I stopped being smart and all. I don't know. Probably it was just that I worked hard before and then I stopped. Maybe I was always dumb. Maybe I was just fooling myself thinking I was smart. A few years ago, I tried to tell a boyfriend. He used to look at me really hard and I guess it kind of felt like he cared. So I tried to tell him about my straight A's. About how I used to want to grow up and paint pictures of people's eyes, the tragedy in the face of a beautiful girl. I used to want to take pictures of all the things other people didn't see. I told my boyfriend that. He pulled me back onto the couch in a long kiss, like sucking the breath out of me. Sure you did, he told me, pulling away. He moved closer and it felt like he was crushing me. Right. I don't know. Maybe that didn't mean anything. That, or the grades. Sometimes I think I want to do something. I don't know, something big. All those books I didn't read through high school. I'm almost graduated and I didn't even read a book. All the boring ones, chemistry books, math books, those I left in friends' cars and parking lots at 2 a.m. when there's nowhere else to go and get drunk. But those novels, I think I still have them all saved. Someday I'm going to sit down and read them all, try and write my own poetry. I used to keep a journal, especially when I was sad. I would write poems in it. Once I even showed my poems to my teacher, and she said I was good. She said I wish I'd come to class with her. She told me I was talented. She gave me this book of sonnets. It was Sylvia Plath. She told me I reminded her of them. I don't know. My ex-boyfriend and I, we were in McDonald's. He went into my purse for a cigarette and found the book. He was laughing so hard at it, reading it out loud and laughing so people could hear. I was embarrassed and I kept saying, "Stop, stop it," giggling like I didn't really mean it, but I did. I don't remember what happened then. I think he must have thrown her away with his fries. Maybe I did. I'm sick of these boys. These boys who grab up your shirt in public and step on your clothes on the way to the bathroom. He thinks I'm stupid. He didn't say it maybe, but I could feel him thinking it. It was like I could hear it from his face. Sometimes I wish I wasn't here, like, in this life. I wish I hadn't screwed up so much. I wish I could read every sonnet that girl Sylvia Plath ever wrote, and then the ones she didn't. The ones she didn't have time to write. I want to do something. I want to be something, but I don't know. If I wanted to, I guess I would have done it already. I don't know what I'm thinking. Problem, I don't think. Maybe that boy was right. Maybe I am superficial.
I'm sorry I didn't come sooner, but I couldn't. I couldn't face it. I wanted to remember you like you were before you got sick. Every time I walk by this place, well, I tried not to, but it's been 3 years. And today, I don't know, I wanted to be near you. These are your favorite flowers. Pale pink roses. Remember when we met 44 years ago? You were the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. You seemed so pure, so perfect. And on our first date, I brought you those pale pink roses. You asked, how did I know they were your favorite? You said that roses were the softest thing you'd ever touched. That you'd be content to spend the rest of your life surrounded by them. I knew then and there that I had to marry you. Remember the day we were married? I stood there in the church waiting for you to arrive. And wondering, was I enough for you? I had never seen you looking more lovely. Your blonde hair swept up, and roses, always roses, woven through, and I wanted to lean over to you and inhale the sound of the pillows closest to your neck. But I wouldn't dare if your father watched me. He took me aside and told me to watch out for you. He said, "Robert, I trust you to take care of my little girl." Amelia, why is it that you would never let me in? That night when Rosie was 5, it was summer, twilight. The wind was blowing, you could smell rain in the air. She'd been playing down the street with the other kids, and when you went to call her, she didn't answer. The sky was getting dark. You walked up and down the street calling for her until it was dark, and there was no sign. I ran after you. We walked inside to start calling neighbors. The phone rang. And it was Gina Watson. Rosie wandered over to play. Rosie was okay. I tried to hold you, to comfort you. And you pushed me away. Always pushed me away. That night, when I walked in the door and you were slumped against the stove, clutching your stomach. Why did you hide it? What made you think I couldn't handle it? Jesus, Amelia, if I'd known, I would have done something. Anything. But you screamed it was too late. You were too sick. What had I done? Why did you blame me? All those times I reached out to you, I couldn't see you were sick. Why did you give up? Why did you ignore me? Why did you sit in your chair resigned to die? I'd give anything for you to live. I needed you so much. I'd sit at night reading the paper and you'd rest your cheek against my shoulder. I could spend hours just smelling the perfume of your hair. And I couldn't protect you. I thought if I held you in my arms forever, maybe you'd always be with me. And I never imagined that I wouldn't just be able to hold you every night and feel your sweet, soft arms pressed against my chest. I thought if I gave you everything, if I made every dream of yours come true, it'd keep you near me. I dreamed for so long that some miracle would bring you back. Yesterday, Katie asked about you. I realized that I couldn't talk about you without getting so angry at you and myself. I made up some excuse that I don't even remember what I said. But I saw on her face that she didn't believe me. I know you're gone, but she has the right to know you. And I can't make you a part of her life if I can't make you a part of mine again. Amelia, I'm not going to shut Katie out, or Rosie. They need you as much as they need each other. I want to be able to tell Katie about you and not feel angry. I want to reminisce with Rose about the little moments and not both start crying. God, how I used to love when I'd come home from work and find you up to your elbows in dirt in the greenhouse. It was like a jungle of flowers, flowers everywhere, on the shelves, on the floor. I would sometimes stand at the door and just watch you. You didn't know I was there most of the time, but occasionally you'd look up and flash me and ask me. I'd go to stand near you. Can you tell me each rose's name? I could never figure out which was Wedding White, which was Sweetheart, or which was Palest Pink. They all looked the same. But you insisted that they were different. You tried so hard to look serious, yet I couldn't help but chuckle sometimes with the smudges of dirt on your face. And at the way your hair became a halo around your humidity. Sometimes I find little Rosemary singing on the floor, playing with the words. On the day Rosemary was born, oh, she was perfect. When I saw her in the nursery, she looked so confused, in that little room full of crying babies. And her eyes were looking around the ceiling, and they were so big. She has your eyes. So does a little girl, Kate. The largest, clearest blue eyes that seem to take in everything and will you to love her instantly. And I stood there and watched through that big window in this row of proud fathers. We were grinning from ear to ear, celebrity cigars in the chest pockets of our suits, and our baby. She started to cry, and I remember thinking that her eyes didn't cloud with tears like some people's. It just got even bigger, and became so bright and shiny, and the tears started to spill onto those tiny cheeks, and I realized then why your father was so careful about it. I saw then that I never wanted her to have to cry again. The little kitty I spoke to the other day, she reached up for my hand. We were walking down the street to get ice cream cones. And the trees shaded the street so it was so cool, and you could see steam rising on the sidewalk where a sprinkler had hit. We were ambling along. We turned to her. We smiled. She slipped her hand into mine when she told me. She said she hoped you were getting lots of ice cream up in heaven. Now, just know, you probably are.
This is a monologue in 3 parts, and there's a little stage direction which I'll give at the beginning of each section. Catherine enters stage with grocery bags. They're obviously too heavy for her. There is more food than she is used to buying. Throughout the scene, she is taking off rain gear, hanging things in closet, and then having herself a snack in the front hall. Yesterday, my husband and I returned from Whitlock's book barn, and our son was home. Now, we haven't seen Stephen for nearly a year, and I told him I was glad he hadn't forgotten about the key. I'll admit my first reaction to finding him in the living room was to be disappointed. Stephen hardly ever comes home except when something has gone wrong. I assumed he lost another job. But when I asked him, he said, no. Things were going well in California. He liked working for his sister. That's good, I said. Your father and I are happy for you. I'm relieved. The job at Disney is maybe the 10th Stephen has had since he graduated from college. If it wasn't for me asking his sister to pull some strings at the office, he wouldn't even have this one. Stephen's sister is very good at pulling strings. To be honest, it's not a talent I admire. Most success in business is very shallow. She's a very beautiful young woman. She doesn't resemble me. She's smart, but all she wants is to be rich. Well, even so, I have to ask Linda for a favor. I knew her brother was unhappy. And I know he blames his father and me. I don't understand why, but I'm not going to let it stop me from trying to help him. I asked his sister to get him a job at Disney. Because I really don't believe Stephen can do what's necessary on his own. And I even thought it might all work out quite happily in the end. Because since he was a boy, Stephen has had a fondness for cartooning. He doesn't draw anymore himself. But I figured working at Disney, behind the scenes, with the people who really make it happen, might mean something to him. But why has he suddenly come home? After dinner last night, I snuck away and put a call to my daughter. Is he doing well? I asked her. She told me not to worry, that he likes the job, and that he only came to see Leonard and me because he's on a vacation. She did say that she thought he might have something important to tell me. I asked what it was. How should I know? She said. Don't pressure him, Mom. Let him take his time. He's been acting differently, but I think it's a good different. You know, he might have something to tell me. Acting different. Almost any difference in Stephen has to be for the better. He wants to talk. This is something. Stephen has always been a quiet boy. 2, Catherine, sitting in the living room. Cézanne book and small briefcase on table near her. Early on, I couldn't help myself from hoping that we might be exactly the child I wanted. He liked to read and liked music. He never wanted to do much outdoors, but I was proud of that fact, that he was different from other children. I introduced him to art early on. First, I brought home the easier exercises I was having the students at the high school do. Stephen was very good. He liked to draw. Next, I began taking him to museums and buying him books. Art books are practically all my husband and I spend money on anymore. And he doesn't even bother reading them. He just cuts out the reproductions and files them away in the attic. These files are amazing. The books are all over the attic floor. And it's all organized. If you want to see a Matisse plate or a Titian, Leonard will pull one right out of that maze. Those files are his life's work. He draws, too. Still lives mostly with oil pencils. He is a great artist. He knows it. But what I respect, though, is the fact that this 80-year-old man has never lost his passion for looking and analyzing what he sees. See? The still life is something completely replaced by just layers of shapes and lines and colors. Now, the value of these drawings lies in their rhythms, in the push, pull of the shapes, and the composition, the balance of forms, and value, more than the color. Now, Cézanne, here I go again. Cézanne was the man who could put all these things together. That man was a genius. Now, from what I've read, he wasn't very pleasant. Not the type of person you want to get very close to. Selfish, cruel, like Leonard, he painted to understand how he saw. But what Cézanne saw was so much clearer, so much more perfect than anyone else, that when he was able to translate it, when the practice paid off and everything really came together toward the end of his life, the result is all we know about the potential of art. What I don't understand is why in the last years, when he had it all at his fingertips, Cézanne couldn't just sit down and work. I mean, why did he have to look at that mountain again? Anyone could see it wasn't the mountain that was important. Cézanne created a vocabulary with which he didn't need to talk about particulars anymore. If he kept going, that is, we hadn't died, I'm sure the paintings would have become completely abstract, whether or not he was looking at anything. Leonard will never reach that stage, but what he wanted, after all, was to teach. We met at the university, in fact. He was my architecture teacher. Some of his students are famous, and they loved him. Louis Sullivan, people like that, thank him in interviews all the time. Leonard was let go because he himself wasn't important enough in architecture. The university has stopped being about teaching. Professors aren't interested in students, they're interested in their reputations. What I wonder is, where are all those artists going to come from when there's no one to teach them? It's much worse than high school. No matter how much a teacher cares about educating, and I do care, the students don't want to learn. When I started teaching, 6th and 7th graders were handing in better assignments than I get from juniors and seniors today. Now, I'm not saying every student has to want to draw, but there's no interest in anything intellectual anymore. The kids I've seen in the past decade either don't want to use their minds or don't want to use them for anything productive. I've got a boy in class this year who's come up with the most ingenious plans for setting fire to the whole room. Now, he's obviously smart, but nothing constructive is important to him. Maybe what I thought made Stephen special also gave him problems. He had no friends in school. Never went out with a girl. Never went out with a boy. Leonard and I worried all the time. In college, I think Stephen opened up a bit. He became more social, had a group of people he liked. He went to London after he graduated. Of course, whenever he came home, he was as sullen as ever. He didn't know what he wanted to do, really. He didn't seem to have any interests. He was leaving art well enough alone. Even Cézanne. Even cartoons. At one point, we became very ill. He was living in New York. Cramped, dirty apartment, trying to work in a factory, and I had to have Leonard go and get him. That's why I asked his sister to get him the job with Disney. I'm almost to the point where I don't care what he does as long as he does it well. 3, Catholic blankets, pillows, hot water bag on her head. I finally cornered Stephen last evening. He was watching television in the den after dinner. I walked into the den and I stood in front of the TV. "What do you want, Mom?" he asked. What did I want? How could I say what I wanted to know? I mean, how could I ask him whether he wanted to be a failure or if he was just letting it happen? I wanted him to say he was happy at Disney, but not that he wanted to spend the rest of his life there. I wanted him to say he was engaged, although that was a long shot. I wanted to know what I had done wrong that had made so much of his life miserable. I asked him if he had anything on his mind. "Actually," he said, "I've been wanting to have a talk with you for a while, Mom." He sat down in a chair. "It's sort of important," he said. He said he liked California. It was a nice place to live. "I'm glad you're happy here," he said. "It's warm," he said. "People are friendly and open-minded, but I wouldn't say that I'm happy." "Why not?" Then he began accusing me. He didn't think I was satisfied with what he'd done with his life or that I knew him well. So I asked him what he had tried to do. Well, he had tried to live in London and be a writer, wanted to get married there, but didn't think Leonard and I would have liked the girl, tried to live in New York and be a worker until I made his father bring him home. "Well, why would you want to be a factory worker in the first place?" I said. But I couldn't stand it anymore. "You have gifts." "I liked working in the factory," he said. "What do you want me to do with these gifts?" "Art!" I finally burst out. "He never really tried art." "Mom, I don't like art," he told me. "Well, how did he know?" "It's not fun, and I'm not any good," he said. "And I don't think Dad is very good either." This all had me really. I wasn't used to such declarations from Stephen. "No one said you had to be an artist," I tried to tell him. "That was only part of it. He could study art. Oh, there's just so much to think about." But people who don't like art don't find those things any fun. And people who don't find them fun aren't any good, he told me. "Well, who said he had to be good? His parents aren't geniuses." I was sorry if that had offended him. "No, that's not it," oblivious to the nature of what his words meant. "But the fact remains that just looking and reading, those things they're well, very mediocre." "Mediocre? Who was he? What had he done to be able to speak about his parents like that?" That's what I asked him, and then he said, "I'm God." And with that, he began to shimmer. And his skin became a lustrous hue of pink. And seemingly without effort, he began levitating over the carpet like something out of Blake. I noticed his fingernails were very long. He crossed and he recrossed his legs in the air, making himself comfortable. I called for Leonard! I was too engrossed in pictures to hear. "It's all right, Mom," he said. "It's not your fault." He turned a somersault, almost banging his head on the ceiling. "This is fun. And don't worry. Just like right now, a boys having fun setting fire to a classroom. Someone else is having fun staring at a mountain over and over again and then making art out of it. Before I could answer, he whisked himself out of the den and through the front door. This morning, after I'd explained the whole thing to Leonard, I called Stephen's sister and told her her brother was God. He's been doing very well at the office, she said. By Tom Webster.
What wonderful, really moving, fantastic, very exciting work, everybody. And the actors, I mean, this has just been glorious for us. To see this enacted and inhabited and really communicated has been just really so wonderful. And you've been so generous with your time and energy and talent and gifts. And really thank you. And I also want to say that the writers who read the plays yesterday, the plays were wonderful. The character and plot and reversals and the wit of all of it was just wonderful. And the play readings themselves I thought were terrific. So just great work by everybody. We're just all so moved by working with you, and this week just feels like a celebration for us. So thank you.